Hey friends, welcome back to the Bald Booktuber. My name is Scott. Today we're going to go over my June wrap-up and my July TBR. June was a weird month. We have kind of the full gamut of a book I didn't like at all, another that I really didn't like very much, to some ones that were fine to okay range, to three that I really loved. So it'll be an interesting wrap up this time around. Hopefully July will be skewed a little more favorably for me, but we'll see how that goes. So as we always do, we'll go from the ones that I liked the least to the one that I enjoyed the most and is my book of the month. And let's get rolling here. So the book I didn't finish, it was a DNF for me. I got a NetGalley arc via audio for Brian McClellan's In the Shadow of Lightning. This is book one of his new series, The Glass Immortals. I made it about 40% into the audio, and I wasn't digging it at all. It felt like Mistborn, only worse. I didn't like any of the characters. The magic felt same-ish to Allomancy to me in Mistborn. I know a lot of people are enjoying it, which is great. I'm sorry about that, Brian. I did enjoy his Powder Mage trilogy. I read that maybe 10 years ago and really liked it. Never got around to his second trilogy in that world. I haven't read any of the novellas or anything. But I was hoping to like this. I do like, he seems like a cool guy. Just in his persona online and stuff. I do like his podcast a lot, but yeah, it wasn't working, so I bailed ship at the 40% point. So no grade on that one. It wasn't for me. The other book that I didn't like very much at all, I had a library hold on Libby come in for the audio for This Is How You Lose the Time War. This is a sci-fi novella, much heralded, lots of acclaim for this. The authors are Amal El Motar, probably mispronouncing that, and Max Gladstone. The narrators were Cynthia Farrell, who I've never listened to, and Emily Zuweller, who I have listened to some stuff from and I'm not a huge fan of. So this is a story of kind of two, I guess you would call them spies on adversaries on different sides of a very lengthy time war. I really love time travel stuff. I was hoping to really like this, but I couldn't get invested in either of the characters. They're not human from my understanding, but they are kind of humanoid. They can take human form or something. Apparently people are blown away by the reveal in this, and I was like, okay. I finished it only because it was short. It was probably 4 hours on the 2x speed I was listening to, but yeah, it wasn't my thing. 2 Stanley nods. People that love it, that's great. It's obviously award-winning. I think it won the Hugo and the Nebula for Best Novella in Sci-Fi Fantasies. So great. I'm happy for the authors. Just not my thing. Next up, we have a book that I liked. And this was a recommendation from my friend Jack over Jack in the Book Stack. We did kind of a TBR swap of sorts. She read The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch, which is one of my favorite fantasy books. She's trying to get into fantasy, and she liked it well enough. And then I read one of her favorite books, which is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I did this on audio. The narrators were Amy Landon, who I've listened to before and I like, and Vanessa Johansson, who's fine. I've never listened to her before. It was fun, I guess. Kind of a Gone Girl type of vibe, that sort of thing. Romantic thrillers aren't my genre, so I can't speak intelligently about it. I think she left some of the ending, Colleen Hoover left some of the ending to interpretation and left it somewhat ambiguous, which I like. I think I took things away from it different than what what Jack thought was going on, so I would defer to her understanding of the situation. But it was fine. It was 3 Stanley nods. I liked it more than I expected to, which is not a knock on her recommendation ability, more just that's not a genre I read. So I'm glad I read it. I don't think I will be reading more of Colleen Hoover's work, not because it was poorly written, just because that's not my thing. And then these next two really bum me out. So if you know anything about me, you know Joe Abercrombie is one of my absolute favorite authors. I love everything in the First Law world. You can check out my favorite series video to see, you know, how I feel about that series. He has another series outside of the First Law world. It was written between the original trilogy of the First Law and the first standalone Best Served Cold, and it's called the Shattered Sea trilogy. I had previously read the first book, Half a King, many years ago when it released, and I was going to go ahead and do the whole trilogy here. I got the first 2 done, so I listened immersively to and read through Half a King and Half the World. I liked the first one well enough, and the second one was fine-ish. Both kind of 3-ish Stanley nods, nothing great. It actually causes me physical pain to rate any of his books less than 5 Stanley nods. It's not enjoyable to have to do that. It's not vintage Joe. It's not. I don't even know if or when I'm going to read the 3rd book. I'm just kind of bummed about the whole situation. Yeah. What else to say? You know, not my least favorite books of the month, but certainly not as high as I expected them to be. I do like Yarvi, who was the main character in the first book. I think he was fleshed out well, and I like what Joe, you know, did with his character. And then he's in the second book a bit, but not what I wanted, not nearly enough. The viewpoint kind of switches around. And my understanding is that it's even different viewpoints in book 3. So, yeah. So Half a War is the 3rd book. I initially had it on my June TBR, and then I initially had it on my July TBR, and I've taken it off of that, and I'm going to back burner it, I think. I'm just not excited to read it right now, so I'll get back to it at some point, because I don't want to leave a trilogy hanging at 2/3 of the way done, but yeah, it was not what I was looking for, so. Speaking of not what I was looking for, so if you've been following along, you know Dark Tower has been amazing this year. My favorite book so far this year has been Wizarding Glass, which was book 4 of Dark Tower. I knew going in that Song of Susanna book 6 was pretty divided among the fan base, especially longtime King fans. A lot of them really dislike it for some of the choices made. And I liked it fine. Again, 3 Stanley nods, and it was fine. But I was expecting to really enjoy it, and I thought it was fine. So it's been the first Dark Tower book entry that I have liked but haven't loved. So that's, you know, says good things about the series as a whole. I'm still super enjoying the series. It is going to crack its way into my top 10. I have no doubt of that. For the next time I do a top 10 fantasy series video. It's just, you know, wasn't exactly what I was looking for. So that's fine. That's going to happen. And now we'll get to the 3 books that I loved. So the first of these, and these are all 5 Stanley nods easily, with no reservations there. The first of these is Savage Sun. This is the 3rd book in Jack Carr's excellent Terminal List series. I was excited to get back to this series. The Terminal List show on Amazon actually starts today. I haven't watched it yet, but it's 8 episodes. It's got Chris Pratt playing the lead role of James Reese. I'm super stoked for it. And so I wanted to get back to that world. And yeah, I'm loving every bit of it. Story of an ex-Navy SEAL, and you know, it's just fantastic. So if you saw my last wrap up, you know that I had a chance to meet Jack Carr recently when he was here I'm in Phoenix, but he was here in Scottsdale, and awesome guy. So I wish him all the best, and he wrote a masterpiece here in the thriller genre, so super stoked. And then we get to, I guess you call them kind of my co-book of the month, because I adored both of them, and they're in the same series by the same author, and it's a series I've been wanting to get to, and finally broke down and did it. If you watched my historical fiction series that I want to get to, this comes in at number 2. The series is called the Matthew Corbett series. It's by Robert McCammon, an author that I fell in love with last year when I read Swan Song and Boy's Life. And these entries I like even more than either of those, which is really pretty incredible. The Matthew Corbett series follows a young man named Matthew Corbett, obviously, who starts as kind of a apprentice magistrate and has his adventures in sort of late 17th century, early 18th century pre-United States, so prior to Revolutionary War, which is a super cool time frame. So I think the way I'll order them is Speaks the Nightbird, book 1. I loved. I have a dedicated review on the channel. Check it out if you are at all interested about what the book's about or whether you should read it or not. And then I ever so slightly like book 2 just a tiny bit more, and that is called The Queen of Bedlam, which was super cool, continuing Matthew's story. And it takes place in New York City, but it's a New York City that's almost unrecognizable. It's basically farmland in a very small community, for lack of a better term. There's about 5,000 people there at the time this takes place, which is strange to even think about, given the current state of the millions of people that live there. So really very cool, and he kind of gets more into kind of the investigative and detective side of things versus the legal side of things starting in the story. So I really enjoyed it. The mystery was super cool. If you like Sherlock Holmes, it was reminiscent of the way some of those reveals take place over long periods of time, where you have to kind of go back to the past to understand character motivations and stuff, and the flashbacks are cool, in my opinion. Yeah, I loved every bit of this. I'll be continuing with the series starting this month, which we'll talk about in a minute. The narrator is Eduardo Ballerini, who is exceptional. I can't wait to hear more from him. And yeah, just fantastic. Excuse me. So let's just very quickly get into the reading stats. So that's 8 books. The average rating is 4, but that average rating is kind of heavily skewed based on those last 3 books I talked about. Obviously, I didn't love everything. I read 3,414 pages, and that's an average of about 427 pages per book. So solid month in terms of quantity. Quality, but quantity-wise, pretty solid month. All right, let's talk very briefly about July plans. So this has changed maybe a dozen times in terms of what I plan to read in July, but I think I'm pretty set on where it's at right now. So I started this morning my reread of Fire and Blood. This is George R.R. Martin's history of the Targaryen family, starting with Aegon the Conqueror. I love this. I read it the day it came out, which has been a while ago now, 3-4 years. I want Blood and Fire book 2 as soon as he can get it to us. But I want a lot of things from George as soon as he can get them to us, so obviously. I'm doing it immersively, and obviously the brilliant Simon Vance has the helm. If you want to know where he falls on my favorite narrator list, feel free to watch that video. He is exceptional. I love his narration. After that, I will probably jump into Mr. Slaughter, which is book 3 of the Matthew Corbett series that I was just referring to. It's shorter than the first 2 books. The first one was about 500 pages. The second one was 600 and something. This one's about 400 pages, so slimmed down. And I don't know anything about it other than the character named Mr. Slaughter is referenced briefly in Queen of Bedlam. So I know roughly who the character is. I don't know exactly what the story is going to do or how that is going to play out, but I'm super stoked to get to that one. On the 19th, as we do every 19th, we are reading finally book 7 of The Dark Tower, aptly named The Dark Tower. So I am excited to see how he wraps everything up, or if he wraps everything up. Should be a good time, hopefully. I hear various things about the ending. I'm excited to see where it goes. The following month in August, we are going to do the novella Wind Through the Keyhole, because we do publication order always on this channel, and it was the last one published. So I know other people read it prior to Wolves of the Kala, which is fine, do what you want to do. But on this channel, we do publication order always. But that's next month. Let's not worry about that. We're in July. After that, what I think I'll do is I think I'm going to actually go ahead and jump into the Greenbone Saga, Fond du Lis, so as much as I can get done. So we've got Jade City, Jade War, Jade Legacy. I just need to know if I'm going to vibe with this story or not. I know that many fantasy booktubers are saying Jade Legacy is their favorite book of all time, so I have to see what that's all about. But first, we've got 2 books before that, so we need to see what the deal is. It's narrated by Andrew Kashini, who is new to me. I've listened to some samples, and I've heard some praise from other very passionate audiobookers that say he's good, so I'm excited to try him out. Obviously, I'll do these immersively. And then, as time permits, and I didn't get to this last month, and I need to get to it, Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 2 came out last month. I didn't get to it. I love Sun Eater. You know I love Sun Eater. I will get to it. It's just a question of when, not if. So if I have a chance, I will close out the month with that. It's short. It's 150 pages-ish. But I have to be in the right mood for short fiction. Even Rocchio's short fiction that I love. I prefer novels, is what it boils down to. So that's that. So that is all of the wrap-up of June, the reading plans for July. I'd love to hear what everybody else has read, will be reading. What are you excited about in July? Tell me all about it. And as we always say here, publication order, always. Thanks for watching.